Hello everyone, and welcome to the Dyslexia Life Hacks Show. I'm your host, Matthew Head. And in this episode, I'm talking to Paul Daniels Jr. He's the founder of Peripheral Thinkers, where leaders from all industries explore, learn, and share. He's also an advisor to Fortune 500 companies, creating more than $2 billion in new revenues. He also does public speaking. He knows a secret that 10% of the population are set with some super skills that allow them to glide over challenges, innovate. I wonder what they could be, but we'll get into that during the episode. As always, I'll put links to Paul's business as well as other things we talk about in the show notes will be available at dyslexialifehacks.com/podcast. Welcome to the show, Paul.
My pleasure, Matt. I'm so glad to be here. And it's good to hear your voice.
Thank you very much. Well, it's good to hear yours too. A bit of background. Myself and Paul met at the Dyslexia show in the NEC in Birmingham, where we just happened to be sitting, having dinner, looking for some friends to talk to, and Paul sat opposite me. So we got talking over dinner at that point. But what I want to do is, rather than talk about the NEC in Birmingham and what we had for dinner or didn't have and what your dessert was like, I wanted to take it back to your school days initially, and we'll sort of start from there. Now, some of your bios, and we spoke about your sort of struggles at school, but did you ever link it to anything, any neurodiversity? Or did you just think you were a little bit behind the people in your class?
Well, as a young person, at least I should say a young person of my generation, we took the educators as authority.
Yes.
And so when they said I was dumb, stupid, lazy, slow, a daydreamer, I believed them. And when they said you just have to work harder, I believed them. So,
yeah.
Again, I wasn't diagnosed with dyslexia until I was 40 years old. So I lived for 39 years, the years leading up to education, where life is wonderful. You're a child and you're just experiencing life and you're learning so many things.
Yeah.
And then, bam, it hits you in the face. Leading up to was wonderful. And getting the heck out of it was even better.
Yeah.
But it was very difficult. School was hard, and I did not realize. I truly thought I was there was something broken with me.
Yeah,
that I wasn't the smart ones in the room, and even at university and then postgraduate stuff, I really struggled to succeed. But I had this desire to learn. This curiosity that's just insatiable.
Is that what you think kind of pulled you through quite a lot of that? Because there's sort of many different ways people can go with, it's not my experience. I know as dyslexic when I was quite young, but having spoken to other people, you can always rebel against school because it's not working for you. But clearly you managed to dig in with your curiosity and just keep you going because you clearly got the grades to get to university or college and then through to start your career there. But do you think that's what drove you, or did you have anybody else with interventions at the time to kind of help you out?
No, I remember both of my parents reading with me, both being frustrated, not at me, but just that we weren't progressing.
Okay.
I don't know, school was a requirement. So it was getting through that so that I could then do what interested me. Right? So there were certain things, geometry, for instance, love geometry because it's all pictures and you're in manipulatives, right? So you're using your compass and your protractor and things. And it just came very naturally to me because I could see it in 2-dimensional and I could imagine it in 3 dimensions. But no, there wasn't a lot. There was no support. I just knew that I needed to go through school, and I knew that I had to get through university in order to get a job. That was just the way it was.
Yeah.
I never questioned that. But yeah, so there you go.
Yeah. So you just get on with it, don't you?
But the curiosity, I don't think the curiosity pulled me through school.
No.
It definitely drove me to finish my schoolwork so that I could go and do other things.
Yeah.
And explore and try new things and build things in the garage and quickly clean them up before my father got home from work. I should be using power tools at the age of 10. I think, things like that all young people do.
Yeah, you still got your fingers, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I've got at least a few of them.
Limited selection fingers come up on camera, yeah.
Right. I did cut the tip of one finger off, but I literally superglued it back on.
Yes, yeah. A garage repair. What's near me? Tape and superglue. Yeah,
it works.
It does.
Works. It does.
Well, boring fact, but superglue was originally invented in medical environments. That's why it's so good for sticking your fingers together.
Yes, exactly. And I know that they use basically the same thing in surgeries.
Yeah, they do.
I do. I've got several tubes of it in the garage, and I'm always cutting myself. Haven't had stitches for decades. Probably should have, but superglue is good. Little duct tape around it. Let's keep going.
Let's keep going. Yeah. Holding apart with the fingers that haven't been cut. Carry on drilling. Yeah. You know all this. So, what did you go study at university? Out of school, then you clearly wanted to go to university because you dug in and got the grades. But
business was really a focus. I wanted wanted to get into business. The challenge there, and the reason that I left that major was accounting. And just the rows of accounting, and the words didn't make sense to me. Debit and credit and balance sheets and so on. I just didn't resonate. And after a few years at university, it took me 5 years to get through college. I had to pay my way through school. So I worked full-time and went to school full-time. So it took me 5 years of a 4-year program. But part of the way through, I recognized this wasn't for me because statistics were coming up and other things. And I thought, no, I want to do something differently. So I was interested in advertising, and the School of Journalism at the university I was at was very well ranked, and I knew some people and used my creative dyslexic charm to get into that and enjoyed it very much. Used it a bit after university and continue to use, you use things that you learn throughout. But never went to an ad agency to work in that industry specifically. The company I was working for asked me if I wanted to open up an office in another city, another state for that company. And so that's what I did right out of university.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting. I spoke to a few people on this podcast with advertising background. It seems to be another hotbed of dyslexic talent parks in advertising. It's like the sort of...
Yeah. Clearly, yeah, the creative piece, absolutely. That was never the problem.
No.
So with ideas and ways of saying things and working visually, love it.
Yeah, it definitely lines in, I think, with dyslexic thinking as advertising. So, but you also didn't pursue a career in that. So, what did you do straight out of college, and what was your career to begin with?
Yeah, so it was I was a manager for a design firm that opened an office in Phoenix.
Oh, okay.
I went and opened this office. It was a design for commercial and residential homes and office spaces, and got that going and started. A couple of our clients asked if I would come and help them sort of grow their business. I did that. And then I decided that at age 25 or 26, I knew everything there was in the world to know. So I chose to, I started my own fashion design and manufacturing firm.
Oh, cool.
Came up with the designs, right? Had no background in fashion, though I took maybe a course or two at university, but there was a need, and I had this business model idea. This is the 80s. Okay. So, don't hurt me. So in the 80s, fads were very popular and they're very trendy and very lucrative. So I created a company called Fadco and came up with ideas and we knew how to market them to create generate a fad, but we outsourced a lot of the operational distribution, logistics, and those kinds of things because it was about creating an idea that could be licensable. And as that fad grew, then you got more attention. And at some point you exit by either selling the rights to all of it or simply licensing the idea to other companies. Great idea. It got close, but I didn't have enough financial aptitude to know how to go and get money, working capital, venture capital, any of those. I bootstrapped it. fact, I lived out of my car for a couple of months just to make sure I was making payroll.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That's a hell of a thing to jump into for your first go business at 25. And you're not a fashion person.
Yeah. I mean, visually, it makes perfect sense, right? The business model sort of made its sense. It was just lacking a business degree. The degree didn't quite get you there. I had some great copy. I had some awesome ads. And we had representatives in 26 states of the 50 states of the U.S. So we were in a lot of places, just couldn't quite get over the hump. But at the end of the day, I sold the business to the guy who ran my marketing organization, and he was really good at it. And they took it for a while and wrote it, but I wanted to get into corporate America because there were things I wanted to learn. And I felt like, if I'm going to stick with something, I want to go where there's lots of lanes to run.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's really interesting. So you're 25 business. How long did the business last for with your involvement?
3 years. Yeah, about 3 years.
3 years. And I could already see all your pattern recognition coming in. Like, you don't necessarily know anything about fashion, but you know ads because you did it at uni. You do it. That's a very 1980s business model, isn't it? We grow this kind of fad and we license it out. That's
yeah, right.
You did your best Gordon Gekko impression, no?
Yeah, exactly. There's a book called The Millionaire Next Door, and another one, How to License Your $1 Million Idea.
Yeah,
just writing things up, drawing them, and then taking them to companies that would go, "Oh, that's a good idea. In fact, we will patent it for you to protect what we're investing in," and you get 3 to 7% of gross for a period of time.
Yeah, nice. If it goes to the moon, isn't it?
Yeah, right.
But it clearly was a successful business, not necessarily just getting over the hump as you alluded to. But you decided to go back to corporate America to have more lanes to choose from. What did you go back to in corporate America, and what really attracted you apart from all the options?
Well, I was at a wedding, and I met several executives from a large multinational, now global company.
Yeah.
Electronic data systems, founded by Ross Perot. Right. So I met a bunch of these executives at a wedding, and they all had, very expensive suits and drove very expensive vehicles, and clearly were flush. And I did my, what dyslexics do is we read people well, and we can kind of create a relationship by being genuine and understanding body language and all those other things. So I asked them, "Hey, do you recruit people like me?" And they said, "Well, yeah, absolutely. You should go into our marketing development program, which means basically coming in and we'll teach you the business and you can sell these large $100 million accounts." I said, "Yeah, but all the executives, if I'm going to invest, say, 20 years with a company, of all the executives that is there a common theme, a common background, a common education?" I said, "Well, of all the executives, everybody's an engineer, whether they learned the engineering through electronic data systems programs or they came out of school with engineering." I said, "Well, I don't have that." And said, "You don't want to do that anyway. You want to go into the marketing program." I said, "Well, but I want to know what it is that I'm selling." So left up, and you can fast forward a couple of months, and I found some recruiters for EDS that happened to be in Phoenix. And I used my one advanced placement math class from high school as qualification to get into their systems engineering development program.
Oh, right.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So the dyslexic guy, is there.
Yeah. And I remember you saying you're not great at maths and you're now jumping into an engineering program.
Right. Which is a long program, but there comes a time when you go to the SED school, Systems Engineering Development School, and it's a 10-week program. And every day you are graded, and every day you have an opportunity of not only failing the course, but not having a job.
Cool.
So at the end of every day is a decision. Do you still have a job? Yes or no?
Pressure.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
10 weeks, about 110 hours a week, and we had 2 days off. We had a Saturday and a Sunday between week 5 and week 6.
Gosh.
It was a pressure cooker. But I learned how to program in COBOL. Don't make fun. But that's what it was. And I went back to the account that I was on and did some work, and I found a bunch of business that we could sell. They agreed that I was an okay coder, but I would be better off in marketing and sales and account management and that kind of thing.
Yes.
So that's how I learned what it is that we do. I experienced life on an account. I worked the midnight shift in a data center, all of these things. And it gave me the perspective that allowed me then to be successful in marketing and sales and account management and team management. And I grew pretty quickly. I did 5 relocations in 6 years with that company. Wow. And each time was, sort of a promotion moving.
Yeah.
So it was a great proving ground, but I hit the glass ceiling pretty quickly. I wasn't willing to stick around for another 10 or 15 years for the people ahead of me to retire. So
yes,
that's when I stayed in, kind of corporate America and did a number of different things. And you can fast forward today, and I've been in 31 industries and served clients in 27 countries.
Yeah. So it's interesting, is installing the engineering mindset. And it's interesting. It was CEO, sorry. And yeah, I mean, in my unbiased opinion, it's a good mindset, because clearly as an engineer.
It's something that those with, maybe you'll agree with this, Matt, those that have creative thought, especially those that have many, many ideas, they need some structure in order to make the ideas a reality.
Oh, yes, most definitely.
And so just learning how to lay out code and to document every section of the code so that anyone could pick it up at any time and say, oh, this is what this section does. We're looking to make changes, whatever it is. Let me find the section. Oh, there it is. So lots of standardization so that it could be repeatable, scalable.
Yep. Yep.
That was tremendous programming. And I loved that experience. I lost most of my hair there. But because, the 110 hours a week in school, there were plenty of other 110-hour weeks during my 6 years at the company.
I can imagine. So this, it's an interesting way, like stepping through to sort of the levels you did, that you realize you hit a glass ceiling. And it's basically the glass ceiling is just waiting for one retirement. You get promoted one retirement at a time at that point. And you didn't want to do that. So where did your brain go next? What did you jump around to go, right, this is where I need to go to drive my career through?
Yeah. At the time, I was thinking less about this is the direction of my career and more about where can I use what I've learned and make a bunch of money. So it really was pursuing the almighty
Benjamin Franklin. Yeah.
Right. And I had recently been married. They were saying I had moved to Columbus, Ohio. We were trying to sell our house in Texas. And then orders came through and I was going to go to Frankfurt, Germany. And that's when I said, enough, I'm done. So I looked and, I'm very young, and the market is a candidate's market. So it didn't take long to find a couple of places, and I stayed sort of in the technology industry, and I joined another, multinational IT outsourcing company, business process outsourcing. They also manufactured a bunch of data center equipment, sold the largest deal in that company's history. And I, at that point, I realized I have a knack for selling in a way that's a bit unique in that it is both creative and very process driven. It's very human centric, but still data decision or data driven decisions, this kind of amalgamation of, the right and the left brain. And spent, quite a bit of time doing that. In fact, I'm a chief revenue officer for a software company. here in the U.S. and I enjoy that very much. I like being meeting people and learning what their issues are and finding solutions sometimes that aren't ours that will help them. Connecting people with solutions is it's like a calling. You feel great, even if I don't win it. It's of course I want to win and I want to provide for the family and all that good stuff. But at the end of the day, it's those connections that you make that are probably richer than the bank account.
Yes. Yeah, I think so too. Probably helps it pads the bank account at the same time.
Yeah. And if the bank account's a little low, I've got people I can contact.
That as well. Yeah, I could see that. But growing in that way and growing good connections, the money follows, doesn't it? Rather than chasing the money in the first place.
Right.
So at some point with all of this, you'd have turned the magical age of 40 and found out you were dyslexic. How did that come about? Because that's sort of getting later on in life. Was it children or something that you suddenly realized?
You heard that, when I was young, they said I was slow and lazy and dumb. So I was dumb. It took me so long to learn I was dyslexic because I'm dumb, obviously. But it happened when our daughter was struggling in school and we had her tested. And during the testing and the report, they would say, and these are some things that she sees that other people, I get that. These are the challenges. I get that. I understand that. They said, well, would you like to be tested? Well, heck, I'm paying for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that's when the light bulb went on. I went, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Now I still felt stupid because I still wasn't reading really well, but it gave me not an excuse. It gave me a language. It gave me a touchstone.
Yes.
That I could refer back to and say, okay, because I'm dyslexic, this is a challenge.
Yep.
What other parts of my dyslexia can help me overcome that challenge or avoid that challenge or whatever? And I really leaned into it a lot because I really wanted to help our daughter because she was told she was dumb, lazy, all of those nasty words. And by gosh, that wasn't going to happen to my kid.
Yes, definitely.
We were standing up.
Yes.
And as she continued to learn, and we found some incredible resources, it was eye-opening to me. And now I began to have this language where before I had difficulty explaining to people how I came up with an idea. Paul, how did you get from a tissue box to a new coilover setup for your race car?
Yes.
Right? Because it comes, I was doing that and I was kind of tearing up. I had allergies and I was blowing my nose, which reminded me, of sneezing. And sneezing has such a powerful, it can be hundreds of miles per hour when it's coming out. The human body can do this. And yet you sneeze and you can immediately inhale. How does that work? And then looking at muscles, and eventually you can see I'm getting to dampeners. But how does that work? And is there a way to lean into that to get the most rebound? Okay, so you get it.
Yeah.
But I've already lost somebody.
Probably.
Right? By explaining, okay, so here's how I came up with this solution. Here's how I came up with a deal.
Yeah.
The structure that you never thought of, which will put us in a completely different market and be successful in our very first deal in 6 months.
Yes.
Right? So it was at that point that I really leaned into it. And I recognized many years later that this is a learnable skill. Some of these dyslexic skills are learnable. So I've been able to teach others how to think like dyslexic innovators.
Yes. So before we get on to that arm of your business, which I do really want to spend a lot of time talking about, I want to sort of get a feel for the flip. So we got should we say the BD before dyslexia, Paul, and then the AD after dyslexia, Paul, at 40 years old. Did sort of the life in the BD age, shall we say, did stuff start to click into place when you realised it was dyslexia that was making things struggle at school? Did you lose some of the, should we say, negative self-beliefs about being dumb or stupid, but struggling to read and all that kind of stuff? Did you start to clean all that out of it?
Yeah, some of it. And it's taken, I'm 60 this year. So 20 years later, I still have a couple of my teachers in my head. So, I have no problem telling you that I have done therapy. Absolutely. Yeah. And recommend it for everyone. Yeah. No matter what your challenge is. It's just good to talk to somebody and help you work through your brain and the way you're thinking about things and your self-talk and all of that. So it did take another decade for me to shed most of that.
Yes.
Because every time it would happen with our daughter, boom, back that would come. And
yes, of course. Yes.
She's got her master's degree now.
Oh, nice.
And she's one of my heroes. Just absolutely a hero. She learned to be a self-advocate. And when she learned to do that, I began to become a self-advocate. And so by self-advocating, I no longer had an issue, perhaps because of my age, perhaps because of the position I had ascended to, whatever, by saying flat out in an interview or when I'm bringing new people on the company, look, just so you know, I am dyslexic. And they'll laugh and say, no, I really am dyslexic. It's a set of super skills, but it also has some issues with it. So I want to share that with you, not because you need to manage to my expectations. I'm leading you. And so I will manage to yours and to what you want to accomplish. But just know that if you ever put me in front of somebody and give me 5 pages to read that I've never read before in front of a group, that'll never happen.
No.
It's wrong. I will hand it right back and say, no, you will be going on stage giving this speech. Now, give me a topic. I have no problem. I can do that. So it helped to know, but I still had to learn what those skills were and take some inventory of where my weaknesses are. Part of that's dyslexia, and part of it's just we all have weaknesses.
Oh, yes.
Nobody's got it all, right? Yeah. So it was just owning up to that and telling people, no, I know you're asking me to do that, but I can read that 300-page legal document. Absolutely. It will take me a week or two, and you will have some incredible notes when it's done. But if you need this in the next day or two, I am not the person.
Yes. Yeah.
Paul, you really need to do it. Okay, I will do it. But just know, 1, I'm not a lawyer. And 2, you're getting what you're paying for, which is nothing. Right? You're getting what you're paying for because this isn't, I didn't sign up to be general counsel for the company. No. So this is the best I can do with what I know. You'll get some comments on here that you've never thought of before.
Yes.
The connection between, if this is true in the legal agreement, then does that influence section 15.2.a? Right? I'll be able to pick those patterns up. So very long-winded answer to your question. Did that light bulb come on and shine brightly? It did. It took a long time to find its way into all the dark corners of just thinking in life. And it still bothers me that I don't read well, but I've worked hard at it. I'm at the level I'm going to be at, and I've already moved on. I've got other things to do. Yeah.
It's very sound advice, actually, and I appreciate for some listeners, it might be really tricky to do or tell other people that are dyslexic to do, but being your own advocate really, really helps. Like just flipping the script on it really helps with confidence and self-worth and self-belief around it. But it's really hard to do.
It is. I think the strength that I have now, and you and I talked about this when we were in Birmingham, and even some of the people that came up after my keynote were younger people that are really struggling with that same thing. And
same here.
The flip point is, do you recognize as a dyslexic that you are in the top 5% of cognitive skills that are needed and yearning? Our organizations and industries are dying for people with your skills. Do you know that? Do you know how unusual and precious it is, these super skills that you have.
Yes.
Because when you do, then you can start by saying, look, I'm dyslexic, which is a good thing.
Yes.
And here's why.
Yes. Yes.
As opposed to, I'm dyslexic, so here's what I need you to know about my deficits. Look, everybody's got a deficit. I'm short. I will never be tall like you, Matt.
Yeah.
Will I ever be small enough to be a Formula One driver? Okay. So that doesn't mean anything. You use what you have and you strengthen it. So that's where it's become easier for me to be vocal about the dyslexia and to be a self-advocate. I had an organization that wanted me to do one of those tests, the timed test. And I said, by the way, if it's timed, I need time and a half.
Yes.
And it was for an executive, a board position. And they said, what? I said, well, I'm dyslexic. So I need, 1.5 times. If the hour, I need 90 minutes. And they said, we don't do that. I said, okay, well, thank you very much. Good luck.
Yeah.
Wait, what? You're walking away? Yes. I'm not going to take this exam under your criteria because you won't get what I bring. Yeah. Tell me that the board meetings are, longer than 90 minutes. Well, yeah, of course they are. Right. So do you want the board meeting to be done in 10 minutes? Would you force everyone to finish an entire quarterly board meeting in 10 minutes? No. Okay. Well, then I need 90 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they said, okay. I did it. And you're like, oh my gosh, we had no idea this. And well, yeah, you're missing out because there are dyslexic people that have a lot to offer, but they may not raise their hand. They may not say, I need more time.
But you think, how many people are they already pre-eliminating? And you think you're going at board level. So you're going at high level job. You're talking, there ain't many people that you're talking to that are above it in the hierarchy. But what if you're at a lower level and you sort of say this, we don't do that. You've already cut quite a lot of your talent pool down by the fact that they're not making reasonable adjustments.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, we're dyslexic.
Yeah.
You likely have some what are called accommodations or whatever. Mm. They're not free gifts. It's not like, well, we're going to let you cheat.
No,
it's
not at all.
We want to provide something really empowering so that we get the very best from you.
Yeah.
If you want the very best, then you have to make the environment the very best. And it's not one size fits all. If anything,
not at all.
It should be everybody's involved because there aren't enough fresh perspectives being included in decisions that are being made. Yeah. And when we do that and we get these fresh perspectives, everything's possible.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Now that leads me nicely into what I might have teased in the opener about, that 10% of the population are born with a secret. And you can actually coach this secret to other people. Yeah. Now, I think we know what the secret might be, what the 10% of the population may be born with at this point in the podcast. But how did that coaching come about? And how do you teach, let's just say dyslexic skills to other people? How does that work?
So I had mentioned earlier that as I progressed in my career and eventually learned that I was dyslexic, that this language came about. And at 40, I looked back over however, many years. I started working full time at 18. So, 20 plus years of working. And I recognized that my inability to explain how I came to a conclusion or how I did something was a barrier for other people because it didn't allow them to learn a new way of thinking. Yeah. So as I worked with clients and I worked in companies, I would continue to craft the way I explained things, sometimes skipping steps because they don't know how I went from a Kleenex box to a sneeze. I just needed to talk about the human body and its ability to take in air, to express air quickly, to take it back in quickly, and how that same approach could be used at a molecular level for what is it? The electronic shock that has the molecules in it as a heat, all that.
Yep.
So I could skinny down the story and get to the point. And then when I got to the point, they're like, wow, we hadn't thought of it that way. Well, that's great. Would you like to? Would you like to see how there are other parts of the business or other things that we could do together that would help you understand that? At that point, I started to share more, and I dug deeper into what are the specific skills that are found across dyslexics in varying degrees, right? Mm-hmm. And I've come across a number of research going back years and years, and that's how I started recognizing that teaching this set of skills to neurotypical people was super valuable. They actually wanted to know.
Yeah.
Because, they don't want to rely on a guru or a seance person, this witchcraft that Paul brings to the table that, he touches things and wow, magic things happen. Let me show you behind the screen. Yes, I'm Paul Daniels, but I am not the magician. I'm the one that wants to show you how the trick is done. Let me take you behind the scenes and show you this is the way we think. And it's not like, oh, wow, I could never do that. It's more of a, oh, I never considered seeing it that way. Okay, well, now you can. And now you have the skill. Now you have just an open awareness. Now you know that you could take two things from different industries and break them down into elements and create a repository of solutions that you can combine with other things to create something new, or not, or try things that don't work and learn from that and add that to your repository of knowledge. So that's how it started to manifest, because I kept getting the question, how did you come up with that?
Yes.
Or I would get, I would do some incredible work for a company and they loved the results, hundreds of millions of dollars that were generated, but I was still the outsider because I didn't walk and talk and think this exact way that all the executives did. And they just say, we just don't see a future for you here. Okay, well, you're welcome for the $200 million I generated for you. I guess I'm going to go to the competitor and see if they would like to know how to do this.
Yeah.
But it was ignorance. It was not in a negative way. It was just their ignorance of this thinking that really fascinated me. And the more people that I shared bits and pieces of how to get there, the more they just, they clamored for it.
Yeah.
Because it is not a heavy lift. It's certainly not the heavy lift that a dyslexic goes through undiagnosed in a standard educational system, a public or private company, very structured. It'll never be that difficult.
No. So this is the geeky engineer in me. And obviously I don't want you to give away all your secrets on this podcast because people pay you for them. But if somebody joined your course and you were going to, they're a neurotypical person and you're going to instill some dyslexic thinking in them, what sort of things are you doing to get them round to that level of thinking? As you said, that people talk to you and they're like, well, you went from A to Z.
Yeah.
And we don't understand what you did in the middle. So how does your sort of training course look like for somebody who, say, signs up for it tomorrow?
So one of the first exercises that I do this in my keynotes as well as when I meet people. And I think you got to see that in Birmingham. If I could take a minute, I'll do it. And for people that are listening and not watching, great. If you're watching, you'll see me do some things, but I'll describe what I'm doing. It's a little 4-minute exercise.
Go on. Yep. The floor is yours.
Here we go. So imagine that you're standing in a mountain field, a large mountain field, and it's covered with wildflowers. Okay, so you can imagine that. The sun is warm on your face. It's early summer. The air is crisp and it's cool. And as you look out on that mountain field, bam, right in front of you is the biggest challenge you've ever faced. Okay, it's rising like this monolith, bigger than Stonehenge. Okay, so really big. Right now, take a hand or something and put it in front of your face, in front of your eyes specifically, but don't cover your eyes completely, just so you can't see it in front of you. Great. So now if you're driving and listening to this, do not do this right now.
Health and safety announcement. Yeah.
Yes. Safety announcement. Pull over or listen to this later. So you've got your hand in front of your face. You can't see what's directly in front of you, but what can you see? Well, you can move your eyes and you can look up and down, to the left, to the right, and you keep that hand in front of you and you can look around. In fact, find something that you haven't noticed before by just moving your eyes around. Anything. Could be a mark on the ceiling, a shadow on the wall, a speck of dust on your desk, whatever it is. Okay, you got it? Great. Okay, so you can take your hand down. You may not know all the details of what you saw, but you can acknowledge it's there, right? That's peripheral vision. Now, look at that object that you saw. Okay, for me, someone placed a shiny brand new penny on my desk and I just picked it up. Okay, so I'm looking at it. What was in my peripheral vision is now clearer. It's more defined because I'm looking at it. That's peripheral awareness because I'm looking at it. And I'm looking at that monolithic challenge in the mountain field. So imagine that you move to the right, say 100 yards in that mountain field. What does that new vantage point uncover about your challenge? Well, likely you get a little bit more detail about it, maybe some shadowing. You can get the depth perhaps, and you can continue your journey around that challenge in a circle, a 360-degree review. Very common, right? And if you have a team, you can take them on that same journey. But your view of that challenge is still from your perspective, perhaps filtered through your team's set of experiences. And the longer they are on that team and in that industry, the more common their perspectives become. So from that position, say 100 yards to the right, instead of looking at your challenge this time, turn away from it and look around. Now what do you see? Well, likely you find other objects, perhaps different terrain, and there are people there. But these people, they're not part of your team or network or company or industry, and they're not looking at your challenge. They have their own challenges. They have their own goals. They have their own ways of approaching goals, achieving goals, overcoming challenges. These people's experiences may be exactly what you need to see your challenge from a very different perspective using a new reference point. Peripheral thinking takes different perspectives, generally speaking, from unlikely reference points and applies them to your situation at hand. Sometimes it matches, sometimes it doesn't, but you have more resources. The more perspectives you have, the more experiences you have, the more open you are to just the world around you, the more resources you have to contribute to whatever you're creating, whatever you're building. The design of, so that is the exercise. And when people go, wow, well, give me an example, then I'll give them an example of clients that I've worked with and so on, and how a moment in time changed the trajectory for a company, and in some cases, an entire industry, because it was simply there all the time. They needed a little broader perspective. They needed to spend some more time being aware while in the periphery. And that doesn't mean going to Fiji or Bali. And if you do, feel free to invite me. I'm happy to go with you and coach you there.
Yeah.
You can learn it at a football match or at a pub or going to the store or taking a walk. The answers to questions are prolific. There are more answers than questions.
Yeah.
It's just being aware where those answers are, knowing how to find them and how to apply them. And that's what I do with peripheral thinking. I teach people how to find new paths and do that consistently, and how to find the resources to help them accelerate on that path, overcome a challenge, and to thrive in any market condition. That answer your question?
It did indeed. Yes, it's a very good taster for anybody else. Obviously, it's a larger course, and I'm sure Paul goes into a lot more detail. But how do you find the responses to that sort of early thought exercise? Because I mean, I could visualize the whole thing, and I put my hand up to sort of play along, but I could do it without doing that because that's how my brain works. But how do you find people respond to you after that initial kind of buy-in, so to speak?
They go, "That's really interesting. How do I apply that?" And that's where we go. Is how do I apply that?
Yes.
And one of the exercises I do is ask them, okay, I'm going to ask you 4 questions. Write the first thing that comes to mind when I ask the question. And you got 10 seconds to answer the question, right? 4 questions. Think of a fond childhood memory, right? Just in a word or 2, boom, boom, boom. You write that down. The second question is, why is that so memorable? Okay. First thing that comes to mind, just write it down, right? The third question, and of course I'm doing this fast. I'm not, if you're listening to this, pause it, answer it.
Yeah, feel free to pause. Yeah.
Right. Third one is, how did that memory influence who you are today? They can be profound or simple, doesn't matter. Just write it down. Boom, boom, boom. Write it down. The fourth one is, give this memory a title. Okay. And have fun with it, whatever, just to encapsulate the idea, the experience. Okay. What we just did was create 4 components that make up a peripheral resource library. For neurotypical people, the ability to capture that, those are the first 4 C's: contact, content, conclusion, and category. The 5th C is connecting the dots. That's where you use these experiences based on what you're looking for. So a goal of a company has a measurable result. If it's a SMART goal, S-M-A-R-T, right?
Yep.
Right? Measurable, all that good stuff. So it's measurable. That goal might be to double your revenue in 2 years. Okay. So your conclusion of your goal is 2x revenue in 2 years. That can be categorized. It might be growth. It might be expansion. It might even be survival. If we don't 2x, we're not going to be around. So whatever that category is for your goal, give it one. Then you take that category and find categories and conclusions in your peripheral resource library, meaning your experiences and whatnot, that match that, regardless of the industry. In fact, preferably outside of your business, your normal business dealings. So where have I seen someone grow 2x in a year? Well, I saw this guy eat a lot. He got really okay, maybe that's not the right way, but I'm joking. But at the same time, let's break some of those mental patterns and say, it's not even going to be about business. 2x growth. What has grown twice? Well, maybe the carbon footprint, maybe whatever it is. What contributed to that? Ultimately, what you're doing is you're breaking it down into an element. It becomes the engineering part. You break it down into the elements that contributed to that conclusion of 2x revenue or 2x something. What of those elements can be applied, the principles, the ideas, the solutions, the approaches? How can we apply those? Not can they be? They can be. How can we apply them to our challenge, to reaching our goal? And so I start with my goal and I have a challenge, my monolith. How do I overcome this monolith? Because I want to go to the other side of the mountain field.
Most definitely. Yeah.
Well, how have other people done that? Well, that's when I look to the person who I found by looking around. Well, they have a monolith. In fact, they got a bunch of monoliths behind them. How'd they get past those? How'd they get where they are now? Well, it's those experiences and being aware that that just get me so jazzed. I'm trying to stay in my seat, but right now I could stand up and give the entire 60-minute keynote because I'm so excited about the results. I look at it, $2.5 billion by just me helping my clients. My clients have generated $2.5 billion in annual recurring revenue.
Yeah,
because
that's impressive.
I used peripheral thinking, in my case, dyslexic thinking. And some of them, I've been able to teach them peripheral thinking. And I haven't even gone back to some, 10 years ago to see where they are now. This is just at the time of the engagement. So it could be 5x that, 10x that. I don't know.
Yeah.
One small hospital started an entire trend in the United States because my client went on vacation to Hawaii.
Yes.
Talk about a Kleenex box turning into a new design.
Yes.
It was fascinating. And it was one of the fastest transformations. Of course, it's easy to see now, 12 years later, that how it's affected healthcare around the United States, North America.
Yeah, yes, definitely. Yes. Well, I think this nicely leads, and I'm going to leave the Hawaii trip as a bit of cliffhanger for people to come and contact you about.
That's right.
This leads me nicely to some fun I have at the end of each episode of the podcast. Each guest that comes on this podcast gets 3 rapid fire questions from me. They don't need quick answers from you, but they're quick questions from me. Should we get into them then?
Fire away.
Yeah, so the first rapid fire question is, what prejudice have you had about dyslexia that has been proven wrong?
That it's a disease.
Wow. That has some prejudice. Yeah.
It's not a disease. It's a learning difference.
Yes.
And the brain processes information uniquely and very powerfully.
Yes, most definitely.
How many diseases are powerful? That make the person powerful.
Yeah,
right?
I was going to say, not powerful, but not in a good way.
Right.
Some diseases, yeah. Yeah. Okay. And the next question is, if an alien landed and you had to describe dyslexia to them, how would you do it?
How would I explain it to them? I would start with the strengths. I would explain that I would try to explain that I see things most people miss. And I would take perhaps a few non-dyslexics with me and the alien and walk around and point out, did you notice that color of that flower actually reflects the color of the stone in that mountain?
Yes.
Is that interesting that it actually reflects, or is it actually the pigmentation? And if so, what can we conclude from that? While my non-dyslexic friends drool on themselves, saying, you do what? And the aliens, hopefully understands what I'm saying.
Yes.
Or they just take me away for more experimentation. I don't know.
Maybe so.
This one is the crazy one. We got to put him in the
ship. We're taking back up the ship. Fair enough. Okay, and seeing as this is the Dyslexia Life Hack show, what is your favorite dyslexia life hack?
It's my favorite dyslexia life hack is being honest and forthright that I am dyslexic.
Yes.
And here are the strengths and the weaknesses that my way of thinking bring to the table.
Yes. As we touched on earlier, being your own advocate really, really helps.
Mm-hmm. And I haven't met anybody yet that has said, your weaknesses outweigh your strengths.
No.
And for those that it does, I have no issue, because what they're needing, I can't provide.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that reading a large legal document is not valuable. It's hugely valuable.
Oh, most definitely.
I am not the one.
No, me neither.
To do that.
Yeah.
So, but if you want somebody to go through it in an unusual way and find little holes in things, give me a month. I can come up with some great stuff for you, if that's what you're looking for. But if not, I'm not the right one.
Yes.
And we both part friends. That's great.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's good advice in general to be able to sort of appreciate things like that when you know you're not the one, or the person you're dealing with isn't the one. And it work well together in that way.
Yeah, think of Sun Tzu's Art of War book.
Yes.
Right? It's been studied forever. I've got so many copies of it. I love it because it is, yourself, the terrain, the enemy. If you do that, you'll always be successful, because you won't fight in fights that you can't win.
Yeah.
And you will win the fights that you choose to fight because you know you can win.
Yes, most definitely.
So it's if you don't do that, then you're setting yourself up and others for a less than pleasant experience.
Yeah, spend your resources wisely.
Indeed. Yeah. How'd I do on your rapid fire?
Yeah, pretty good. Yeah.
Okay. You have more?
So no, that's it. I was just going to wind the podcast up by asking, is there any more you'd like to add?
I made it.
Yes, you did. Yes, you got to the end.
I survived. Yeah. And you didn't grade me or degrade me. So thank you, sir.
Yeah, there is no grading rapid fire questions. It's always a fun way of getting some interesting answers out of different people.
It's good stuff. And I hope that you get an opportunity for someone to do the same thing for you, because I so enjoy meeting you and spending time with you and learning from you, and the way that you see the world, as all dyslexics see things differently, it's been awesome. So
thank you.
For those that are listening, if you haven't listened to some of the other podcasts that he does, please do, because Matt's a brilliant guy, and best of all, he's a good guy.
Thank you very much.
He's the real deal.
Much appreciated. And I very much enjoyed meeting you. So hence why I brought you on the podcast, because I knew we'd have a fun conversation.
Yeah, good fun.
That leads me to ask you, is there anything else you'd like to add? And where can people find you if they're interested in what you had to say today?
Sure. So I am pretty active on LinkedIn. It's pretty easy to find Paul Daniels Jr. In the United States. I'm out of Dallas, Texas. Also, you can find some of the work that I've done in a couple of areas. You can go to my website, which is pauldanielsjr.com, and you can see some of my speaking, a little bit about the peripheral thinking, even sign up for the free monthly newsletter that I put out about peripheral thinking, what it's like for dyslexics, non-dyslexics, and so on. Share a little insight every month on the 15th of the month. So if you want, it's free. I don't sell anybody's stuff. It's just my way of giving back. I'm happy to do that. And you can also find on YouTube. I don't promote this very often, but the YouTube channel, if you just search for Peripheral Thinkers, or Peripheral Thinking, you'll find myself or someone from the 80s that talks about architecture.
Okay.
Mine is trademarked. So you can find it, and there's a host of, videos and content and stuff like that. And if you want to reach out to me directly, my cell phone number, I'm not going to give you my mobile phone number.
I didn't think you would. I was about to say, whoa. Cool. Well, I will drop them all the links to that in the show notes, which are available at dyslexialifehacks.com/podcast. And that leaves me to thank you very much, Paul, for taking the time to talk to me from across the globe today.
My pleasure.
And I want to thank everybody else for listening, and I will talk to you in the next episode. Goodbye for now.